Okay. Speaking of right-wing D-bags who try not to admit that they're right-wing D-bags who are in it for Trump, we're going to do one of our favorites, Patrick Bet-David. So Patrick Bet-David on his show had Jesse Waters, and Jesse Waters is the scumbag who took over after Tucker Carlson. And Jesse Waters is on, and they talk about a number of things. But we're going to talk about some of the financial stuff they talk about. And the first thing they talk about is immigration. And we're going to jump into this clip because it's freaking stupid. You're going to love it.
Clip here. And by the way, if Trump wins, this guy is going to be back running the border. And I want to remind you guys who this guy is when he sat down with AOC and AOC tried to grill him. Yeah. And watch what happened to AOC when she tried to grill a man who knows the law.
You'll hear the
Go ahead and watch it. It's just entertaining. Go ahead.
Recommendation of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommend a zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Bartender.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
What?
When you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. And so the
That's the part.
recommendation.
So this guy, Tom Homan,
the best.
is one of the most feared men when it comes down to this because he knows the law. And to be a guy like that, you have to be as strong as he is to run it.
But there's a distinction in how he doesn't really understand the law. Because if you cross the border without announcing it or without documentation, yeah, you're in the country illegally. Most of those people do not come across the border, though, by walking across. They come in by ports of entry, legal ports of entry, and they just overstay their visas. Right?
Right.
Most of the people that are coming to the border, actually walking across the border, they're going and asking for asylum, which is legal. Right? So there's a big difference.
Right.
What he said was we did zero tolerance. We're separating children from those people because they're in the country illegally, except for they're not. They're asking for asylum, and then you're taking their kids. So they've broken no laws. They've committed no crimes.
Right.
That was her point, and he was the guy who funded it. So when he sits there and cites the law, he's citing it for specific cases, not all the children.
Have nothing to do with this situation.
No.
You know, he's bringing up examples like, well, you know what? When this person's father does this illegal thing and they get arrested, they're separated from their children, which has absolutely nothing to do with somebody seeking asylum, which is not an illegal thing.
No, and even then, overstaying your visa, when he's citing that, it's not a crime, it's a violation. Right?
There is a difference.
Yeah. We're not putting these people in prison, we're just deporting them.
Right.
So that's the problem with that whole thing. And for them to say, oh, but see, he's right, and da-da-da. It's because you guys don't know the fucking law. And he knows that, and that's why he's citing some stupid shit. But AOC knows it. Everybody else there knows it, and they know it's full of shit. It's just a soundbite. So these guys are fucking idiots on that whole thing. We'll watch another minute of this, but it's just, they're so stupid.
If Trump gets elected, this guy's protecting your border. And I think about what kind of a personality you want working security at your bar. Then think about what kind of a security guard you want running a nightclub that has 2,000 people coming in. Then think about what kind of security guard you want running a nightclub that top-notch celebrities and Hollywood and all. You need a real one. Oh. Then think about what kind of a security guard you want protecting a community, Bel Air, where famous people live in. Then think about what kind of security guard you want. You get the idea where I'm going with this. Then think about what kind of a...
Do you get where he's going with that? Because I didn't. How is this even analogous?
I got nothing. I don't know. I don't think he's going anywhere or nowhere that makes sense anyway.
So for this to be analogous, right? I'd have to go up to a nightclub with my kid and say, "Hey, can we get in?" And if the guy said no, and then he took my kid, that would be analogous
And
to what
then-
he's saying.
Right. And then he said, that's the guy you want running your bar. Like, listen,
It doesn't.
fine. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But furthermore, the security guard in a nightclub gets to make that decision. Okay? Law enforcement doesn't. You know who makes the decision? The courts. That's why we have a judicial branch that's separate from the executive branch, which is law enforcement. The Border Patrol does not get to decide whether or not these people are allowed to stay. They just process them. A judge gets to decide. So this is, I mean, there's no analogous anything here. And the whole thing about, well, a nightclub owner or a nightclub security guard is just following what the owner says, and it's usually something like that. But if the nightclub owner starts saying, well, we're not going to let any black people in here, then you're getting sued for discrimination. So there are laws preventing the nightclub owner and the security guard from doing that shit. Exactly what he's talking about. Only celebrities, only A-list people get in. You can't do that. I mean, you can discriminate some, but not that much. So, I mean, the whole thing is just retarded. But this is the genius that we're dealing with here, going forward. But I wanted to get to this clip. Oh, before we get to that, I wanted to get to this article real quick. We're going to go right over here. So, speaking of immigration, a big article came out. It was in Bloomberg and Business Insider. I'm pulling it from Business Insider here, on immigration and how it affects the U.S. economy. And this was recent. This was back in February. So, the U.S. economy, I don't know why that ad is there. The U.S. economy will grow by an extra $7 trillion over the next decade due to immigration, according to the CBO. So, the U.S. economy will grow by $7 trillion over the next decade because people are coming here. So the U.S. economy will grow by $7 trillion over the next decade as a surge in immigration creates a larger labor force and increased demand for goods and services, according to a new estimate from the Congressional Budget Office. Okay, the findings from the CBO reinforce commentary from economists that suggest immigration trends in the U.S. have aided the economy in avoiding a recession, as more workers help boost productivity without causing a spike in wage inflation. They boosted productivity and they didn't spike wage inflation. Labor force in 2033 is larger by 5.2 million people, mostly because of higher net immigration. More workers means more output, and that in turn leads to an additional tax revenue. So as a result of the changes in labor force, we estimate that from 2023 to 2034, GDP will be greater by about $7 trillion, and revenues will be greater by about $1 trillion than they would have been otherwise. And so here's the trend that they show and why it jumped from the current projection. The other thing they're missing out is, why did it jump, right? And the reason it jumped versus like here, you see this dip here, that's COVID, when we shut the border down and almost no one was crossing because it was too dangerous. And then after COVID, when Biden was president, it spiked again. The reason it spiked, because Trump didn't really slow it down with those policies. Because if you look back at this real quick, up until 2018, it was still going up.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until COVID that it started to come down. So the child separation thing didn't really slow immigration. What it did was it punished a lot of people. But what ended up happening was COVID tanked it. But you know why COVID tanked it? Not because those people didn't want to come over here, but because they didn't want to come over here because there were no jobs. Immigrants aren't coming over here just to sway the vote or to piss you off or because they know you don't like brown people or whatever the fuck it is you think. They're coming over here looking for work. I mean, that's why they're doing it. And right now, we have a very tight labor market, and our economy is doing better than anybody else's in the world. We've recovered better because the government pumped in a ton of stimulus to the people, right? And our economy's doing really great, and we have more jobs than people. So yeah, if you're an immigrant, the U.S. is sounding pretty good right now. Almost guaranteed I'll get some work. And like they said, people that came over here got work, they didn't increase wages, but they increased productivity, which stimulated the economy. So this whole thing is back-asswards. This whole we want to stop them at the border shit, well, it's just going to hurt the economy, and it's going to hurt businesses. And they did that in Florida, where they did that real draconian sort of ban on immigration. And what happened was it devastated the farmers because they couldn't get anybody to work. Because all these immigrants left Florida for other states. I mean, it's just stupid. So, that's just my only argument on that. Just showing these guys don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. So...